Hi everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by, and welcome back to our third video on aspects of biochemistry. Today our attention is centered around lipids, another type of macromolecule that you are required to know about. If you learnt about lipids in the past, you probably associated them with fats. However, we are now required to go a bit deeper. Lipids are insoluble organic compounds made of smaller subunit molecules also known as monomers, like glycerol, fatty acids and phospholipids. Lipids are formed by the reaction involving glycerol and fatty acids. Fatty acids are organic compounds that contains a polar carboxyl group and a long non-polar hydrophobic hydrocarbon tail. By that we simply mean a structure consisting of both hydrogen and oxygen atoms, and it is water-hating. From Latin, the prefix hydro means water and phobic means fear of. Fatty acids can either be saturated or unsaturated. A fatty acid that has only single carbon-to-carbon bonds is known as a saturated fatty acid, due to the carbon chains being filled with all the hydrogen atoms it can hold. Unsaturated fatty acid, on the other hand, may consist of one to several double bonds, reducing the amount of hydrogen that is held. Animal fats have saturated fatty acids that are solid at room temperature, while vegetable oil has unsaturated fatty acids and are thereby liquid at room temperature. Glycerol, which is the next subunit, on the other hand, is a polar molecule, containing many OH, or carboxyl groups. Lipids can be categorized into two types. They are triglycerides and phospholipids. Primarily they have the same basic structure with glycerol and fatty acid tails. Let us take a closer look at triglycerides. Triglycerides are lipids which are primarily used as long-term energy storage molecules which are stored in the adipose tissue in humans. Accumulation of excess adipose tissue will eventually lead to obesity and other critical conditions. Another function of triglyceride may be cited in terms of insulation. Triglycerides contain two types of subunit structures, glycerol and fatty acid tails. Let us now look at how the triglyceride subunit is formed. Remember, a fatty acid is only a part of a triglyceride. However, it is these sections that allows for triglycerides to function as efficient energy storage molecules. To form a triglyceride, three different fatty acid chains must bond with a glycerol molecule through the process of dehydration synthesis, thereby forming an ester bond. Remember how the condensation reaction works from the previous video on proteins? It is very similar. So, in this case, three water molecules are removed when the carboxyl group of the fatty acid reacts with the hydroxide group of glycerol, and the ester bond joins what remains. Let's move on to the next category of lipids, which is phospholipids. Phospholipids are similar to triglycerides in that they contain a glycerol molecule and two fatty acid chains. What's different is the presence of a phosphate group rather than a third fatty acid attached to the third carbon of glycerol. When the molecules react and bond, the phosphate group is regarded as the heads, which are polar, and hydrophilic in this case. The two fatty acids, however, are hydrophobic tails, which are non-polar. Phospholipids are found in cell membranes. When phospholipids are submerged in water, it forms a bilayer, which forms the cell membrane. The tiny spheres of the membrane are called the hydrophilic heads, which are attracted to water and are faced outward, while the tiny hydrophobic tails hide on the inside, as they repel water. Here is another view of the phospholipid bilayer. That pretty much brings us to the end of this video. To end, here is an image that captures the similarities and differences between the two categories of lipids we discussed. I hope it helps. Well folks, thank you so much for watching, and remember to like, share, subscribe and stay tuned for our two final videos in the aspects of biochemistry for Module 1.